Hello and welcome to the GrapeSEED Official Podcast. This will be another episode in our Deep Dive series, where we take a look at a facet of GrapeSEED and go in-depth on it. Today's topic is the scope and sequence. In many of the training videos on the portal, we reference the scope and sequence, an important document that details the skills we are expecting students to be working on and learning in every unit of our curriculum. The document is designed to be easily read using circles to indicate progressions of learning. These can range from empty cells indicating students not having any exposure to this objective in the unit, all the way to filled-in bubbles indicating students have an understanding of this objective that is appropriate for their grade level, but teacher support may still be needed. Let's look at a specific example. If we look at the scope and sequence for Year 1, which is Units 1 to 5, we can take an objective like listen to identify words and see how it is developed over these units. In Unit 1, we find a simple circle, meaning students were introduced to this objective, but mastery isn't expected. This continues until Unit 3, where the circle becomes darker, indicating that students have had additional exposures to the objective, but still need teacher support. In Unit 5, the bubble is completely filled in, meaning students have an understanding of this objective that is appropriate for their grade level with teacher support. Thus, reading the tables and seeing the expectations for increasing student growth is easy to read. What is more tricky sometimes is understanding the objectives themselves. As our curriculum aligns to international standards, some educational jargon necessarily comes along with it. Most things in GrapeSEED are written and designed to be easily understandable by everyone, even non-native speakers. Think of the teacher manual. But the scope and sequence can be quite tricky, even for native speakers of English. We have received many questions about what particular objectives mean in more simple terms. So in this podcast, we'll be looking at these and defining them, helping deepen your own understanding of our goals and objectives as you consult the scope and sequence throughout your GrapeSEED journey with your students. The most frequently asked questions involve the objectives construct meaning and determine meaning, and the difference between these two linguistically. It can be helpful to think about this as a kind of a spectrum. Students begin by constructing or building meaning, and as they do, it evolves into determining meaning. To really understand this, think about the perspectives of your students in Unit 1. It is their first day of class and they have no English foundation. They see their teacher say, sit down, which might sound to them like sit down or set-ow or something else nonsensical. But when they say it, they go from standing to sitting. They say it again and again, going from standing to sitting. Your students at this point might then begin to associate the series of sounds that sound like sit down or sit down with the action of sitting. They are constructing meaning, building understanding of a set of sounds together and what they mean. As they are exposed to the language more, they will more accurately be able to distinguish the sounds in sit down and no longer hear it as sit down. They might even tell their friend to sit down when they're supposed to. They have started to determine the meaning here. They constructed an understanding and are now able to use it in context. Over more exposures, they begin to understand the difference between sit down, sit nicely, and sit on the floor. They can use the language as well when answering questions or making comments in class. They have determined the meaning of the word sit and its applications at a level appropriate for their grade level. This is an important point, appropriate for their grade level. They don't know or understand all possible applications of the word sit, and even in the understanding they have, they might still require teacher support. But that's okay. With more exposure and comprehensible input, they will grow in confidence and accuracy. Next up are our three modalities that our students progress through as they go through this growth of confidence and accuracy: receptive, productive, and interactive. Students start in the receptive stage. They are receiving the language. They listen as their teacher sings songs, reads stories, or even just talks to them using the language in the materials. While in this receptive stage, students are constructing and later determining meaning. Students grow from this receptive stage into the productive stage. They have had a strong foundation of input from the teacher, so now it is time for them to try and use the language. It might be hesitant and limited at first as they get their feet wet, but here, students are confirming that the meaning that they have constructed and determined is accurate through responding to questions from the teacher or even making their own comments. Towards the end of a unit, you will see students entering the interactive stage, where they more fully interact with you and each other using the language and the materials. They are more confident here in this stage than they were in the productive stage.
Goodbye, my friends, goodbye. I'm sad to say goodbye. It was a good day, but now I will say goodbye, my friends, goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.